Let's set the mood and get crude. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to The Croods. This is a movie that I have never really been interested in seeing, but at the same time I'm kind of curious because I know this is about Stone Age people and everything, cave people, whatever you want to call them. I don't like the term Neanderthals. But yeah, it's about people from that time, and that's pretty much all I know about it. I have seen some art, let's say, some adult art of, I guess, the main female character. And I do know she is an adult, by the way, because I've heard people actually justify that when someone asked if, like, she was of age. I know she's 19. She is an adult. But that's literally all I know about this movie. Cave people, the main girl is 19, and there is a lot of not safe for work art of her. At least I've seen a good amount of it. Um, just kind of randomly. It wasn't even something I was searching up. But yeah. So I guess that's kind of my introduction to this film. In the same way that apparently Danny Mata was introduced to Has Been Hotel through art, not safe for work art of Cherry Bomb. If you haven't watched Danny Mata's reactions to Has Been Hotel, definitely check them out, though. Check out all his reactions. He's a pretty great reactor. Has a really, how do I put it? His sense of humor is not for everyone. And he integrates that really strongly into his videos. So I'll understand if it's like not for you, but I find him funny. Um anyway, so yeah, I don't know like what the actual plot of this is about at all. I don't know who's in it. I don't even know what studio this is. Actually, let me check that real quick. I have no clue what studio this is actually made by. I don't think it's DreamWorks, right? Hold on. I'm trying to find it. No, it is DreamWorks. It's DreamWorks and 20th Century Fox. Oh. Well, okay. That's interesting. I did not realize this was a DreamWorks movie. There are a few DreamWorks movies I haven't seen, mind you. So it's not like this and its sequel are the only ones, but yeah. Also, I do know, while this isn't like directly related to the movie specifically, I do know that there are two movies of this and two separate shows as well. And I believe one of the shows is done in the 3D style that this movie is, and the other one is a more of a 2D style. I don't know like anything about what the content of the shows or anything are like, but I know they exist. And both of them I think have like multiple seasons. Like I think one of them has like 4 seasons, and the other one has even more. Just from what I briefly had seen while you know, getting this movie and all, which is wild to think about. It's like, was this really popular? Because I don't really hear people talk about this too often. Was this popular enough to really warrant that much extra content? Maybe it was. I don't know. Maybe this actually did really well for itself. I guess it's just not one of those movie franchises that people really like delve back into in the future. Like there's a lot of the movie franchises and everything that start off as movies, get a lot of shows and stuff. Like the How to Train Your Dragons one. That still gets a lot of discussion all over the place. People still love it. It's still very popular and very talked about. I never see anyone talking about this anymore. Um, but I'm curious. I'm curious to see what this is like. Um, I'm curious to see like what the characters are like, especially this girl who everybody apparently seems to have the hots for. I guess. Um, I'm just interested because I've seen various media that obviously have cave people as the characters and all. I mean, going all the way back to the Flintstones, you have even something as ridiculous as the Geico commercials that had their own spin-off series. Like that was a thing that happened. Didn't last long, but it was a thing that happened. And like cave people have appeared in stuff like Dexter's Lab and I think Samurai Jack and stuff as well. Gendy Tartakovsky, I think, touched on that a bit in multiple works. But oh, and then there's that Primal show. That's a big one, isn't it? A lot of people love that show. That's one that I have not checked out, but that's also Gendy Tartakovsky, isn't it? I think he just is really into that kind of media. Nothing wrong with that. It's just an observation, if nothing else. Um, but yeah, like I said, I don't know who's in this or anything. I think this came out in the 2000s, so honestly, it could be like kind of anyone. But I'm curious. I'm like I said, I'm interested to see what this is like. It's something I've never really given much thought to. It's something I've never really like really wanted to see. But it's not like something I like was actively avoiding. Believe me, there are plenty of movies like that. Uh, but yeah, let's just get into this and hope for the best, I guess. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, blah, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the movie. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I was looking up the voice cast that I didn't recognize offhand, and Catherine Keener, who was the mother in this, was also the mother, Missy, in Get Out, the Jordan Peele movie. You know, the one with the teacup, the hypnotism. It's like, I'm thinking about it, it's like, oh, she absolutely wasn't she? It's like, I can hear it now. I can absolutely hear that. And then, let me see, name here. Clark Duke, who was Thunk. He was in various things here and there, but nothing I would like really know him from. Like a couple things that I've seen, but either I didn't get that far or like it's not a role I would like recognize him for, you know? Um, Apparently he was Brett in Inside Job, it said. Let me just double check to be absolutely sure. Yeah, Brett Hand in Inside Job. And he was in various other things, like he was some minor characters in Adventure Time. He was in The Office apparently. Robot Chicken, stuff like that, but nothing like really, I guess, notable. At least, again, no notable roles that I would really know, that I would like really recognize him for. The others, of course, I know. I know Nicolas Cage. I know Emma Stone. I know Ryan Reynolds. I know Cloris Leachman. It's just like there were those two that I just wasn't completely sure on. And so yeah, that was just how it was. But I also looked up to see what the reception to this movie was because, like I said, I didn't going into this. I didn't really know anything because people don't really talk about this one. it's one of those movies where it's just like, I don't necessarily know how well it was received because people don't talk about it nowadays. Even though the sequel came out in 2020, and a Netflix series, one of the series is a Netflix series, and that came out like, I think a year later or something like that. So it is semi recent that new stuff has come out for this franchise, but at the same time, people just don't talk about it like they do other stuff. So I wanted to see what people thought about it, and it's actually very well received. It's not like the best received thing in the world. It's not like up there with like Spider Verse or anything, but no, it actually has some pretty like good reviews and everything on average. It's actually pretty well liked, from what I saw, and that's good, because then I'm not alone. I actually really liked this. Like, is it generic to a point? Absolutely. There are certain things about it that are definitely outdated and generic, and it's like movies in terms of animation have definitely come a long way since this came out like um let me make absolutely sure on this. In 2013. I was saying that this sounded like, or it felt like, with the having the thing at the end, the narration all sounded like a 2000s thing, and I still stand by that. But this came out in 2013. The sequel came out 7 years later in 2020, and then there were the shows and everything. Um, and yeah, apparently, it just, I guess, was still kind of stuck in a lot of the stuff from the 2000s. And you can very much feel that. It feels older than it is. And that's not to say as like a big negative or anything, but there's certain tropes that it hits and everything, certain things that it does that it's like, you've seen this a million times, you know. The overbearing father who doesn't listen to his daughter, and in the end learns to, well, listen to her. And both her and her father truly love each other. They're just not great at showing it. You have the dumb brother who's just kind of there for comic relief. The little sister, the baby sister, who's like an animal basically. It's like these are all tropes that have been done. And a lot of it is not really original in terms of the ideas and all. Um, and then of course you also have to take into account the uh, the fact that it's just not super consistent, I guess you could say, with its like theme, not theming, but I wish I was better at wording shit. It's not super consistent with its like with sticking to the time period, but it doesn't go in that kind of like satirical natured way that something like Disney's Hercules does. Okay, let me explain. So you know how in Disney's Hercules they make all of these like pop culture references and jokes and stuff, like when Hercules is getting big and he has all the merchandise and stuff. Things like that, where it's like, oh yeah, this stuff makes no sense to be mentioned in something that is focused on ancient Greece. It's like this takes place in ancient Greece, yet we're talking about stuff like that that makes no sense, right? But the movie goes so heavily into it just fully immerses itself in that as a satirical edge to it. And that's what makes it work. This movie doesn't go far enough with it. It just occasionally says something that just doesn't really make sense. And it just feels like, oh, that just feels a little out of place for how the rest of this movie is going. For example, when this is right near the beginning, they're riding the mammoth back to the cave. And the father says, put on the brakes. And they, pull the mammoth's head down by the tusks to break it on the ground and all. how would they know what brakes are? How would they know what to, how would they, why would they call it that? That's not just something they would naturally call it, right? Why would they call that brakes? Like, you could make an argument like, oh, they're breaking the speed and everything, but it's like, I don't think that, it doesn't feel natural. It feels like they're just making a joke, like comparing it to a car. That's all it really is. And it feels unnatural to make that kind of joke here when, again, most of the movie sticks to the fact that they are in, like, prehistoric era. You know, Pangea is splitting apart. That's a big part of the film, with the tectonic plates shifting and Pangea splitting and causing all of this trouble with all of that. That's a major factor in the film. And it's like they would not call it that. And I can be fine with them, like, more or less speaking with, like, modern vernacular for the most part, because it has to be accessible as a film to the kids who are watching this. Like, adults could maybe get behind, like, a movie of cavemen grunting and using only the most basic terms and whatnot, but kids are not going to find that entertaining. They're not going to be able to understand what's going on, or like, really grasp the film with that. Like, they'll find it funny for a little bit, but not for an entire movie. Kids have short attention spans. You need to be able to talk to them in a way that they're going to understand. So, yeah, you kind of have to do it this way, using, again, more modern vernacular and all. I'm fine with that. But again, using, like, references like that, it's weird. It's kind of weird, if I'm being completely honest. Um, but that's a minor thing, all things considered. It doesn't really hurt anything. Um, and not really anything in this film, like, feels like that. It's like the worst aspects of this film are just that it's generic. It's all stuff that's been done before. It's nothing new. Nothing is actively bad about it. Nothing is, like, offensively bad. Nothing is, like, gets in the way or, like, hurts the viewing experience of the film. This movie doesn't do anything like that. It's just the weakest parts are just weaker because they're generic. That's it. Which I guess is a fair enough problem to have. I feel like there's a lot of animated movies, especially around this time, that did do that kind of thing. But it doesn't ruin anything, so I can't be too upset. Um, the voice cast they got is good, except for Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage sounds so out of place as Grug. Like, every time I'm hearing him talk, I'm like, why is this Nicolas Cage? Why is he the one who has to play this character? It makes no sense. It doesn't work for him. He's not selling any of these lines. And Nicolas Cage is a good actor. I don't think it's his fault, really. I think it's because this kind of character would work better for someone like Gerard Butler. You know, someone like you would imagine playing someone like Stoic from How to Train Your Dragon. You just someone um like Nicolas Cage just doesn't work for this kind of, like, big, tough, stuck in their ways type of character. His voice is, one, too recognizable, so you're instantly going to know who it is, and two, it can't really be taken seriously for this kind of role. That's just not the kind of role for him as an actor. So I just think that he was a little miscast. The only scene that felt like it made sense for it to be Nicolas Cage was when he was, like, pretending to have ideas just to try and, get back at them and, possibly kill his mother-in-law, which, by the way, again, that joke is not funny. It's never been funny. The entire hating your mother-in-law thing is just never, it's never been a funny joke. It's cringy as fucking always has been. Um, but anyway, yeah, the issue here comes down to just not really making sense for the character. The character I was fine with. I was fine with the character as he was portrayed, especially with what they were going for, the theming and story and everything. But I think they should have cast someone else. That's my only big gripe with the voicing. Everyone else did a great job. Especially Emma Stone. I actually want to like just really praise her performance as Eep in this. Like, I would not have really guessed that was Emma Stone because she just melded into the character. She became the character really well. She was definitely the best voice performance in this. Um, and I'm not like the biggest Emma Stone fan, so it's like I'm almost a little surprised that she impressed me that much. And honestly, Eep was the best character in my opinion. But I mean, that should be no surprise to anyone. Of course, I like the. By the way, the dog might start barking in a second. Of course, I love the buff, wild, progressive female character who's also weirdly curvaceous. Let's talk about that for a second. It's like that. I understood that there is not safe for work art of her. I mentioned that in the pre thoughts. So I understood there probably was a reason for that. And although it's not said in this movie, I guess it's said either in the sequel or in the series that she's 19. I do know it is said in one of the pieces of media. Um, they animated her very sexy like she is ridiculously curvy. Like, yeah, she has wide shoulders and all, but when you like see her like her just general figure, it is very curvy. Like, to the point of like, you guys did this on purpose. And again, there's that part near the beginning where like they're getting ready to run and she's like just shaking her ass in the air and it's like, girl, why? Like, I get the general idea behind why they would put that in there, but at the same time it's like, this is intentional. This has got to be intentional. And it's just like they drew her, or designed her, I guess, not really drawn, I guess, with 3D, but they designed her to kind of look a little like wide and maybe a little derpy because of it, because they wanted to portray that she is still, a cave woman. But at the same time, they also made sure to make her attractive. And I'm not opposed to the idea necessarily. It's just that had to be very intentional. There's no way that that was just an accident. Again, especially when there's like scenes like where she's lying down at the rock at the very beginning, and it's like very much like showcasing her curves and everything. It's like that is very intentional. Like, come on. And most of the movie, like, she's like walking and crawling and hopping around like an ape and everything, which again makes sense and all. And she's acting like not necessarily in a standardly sexy way or anything. It's just more about her design and her figure. But like I said, she's my favorite character in this because of, yeah, the reasons you would think. I tend to gravitate a lot towards progressive characters because it does tend to align with my own ideals and beliefs. I tend to be a very progressive person, and I believe that change is not only necessary, but is extremely important for survival, which is shown in this movie and kind of blatantly said, it is absolutely like required. We as a species would not exist nowadays without change. And without change, we will not exist in 100, 1,000, 10,000 years. Change is essential for life. And that change can come in many different ways, like depending on the time period you're in, depending on just all kinds of various factors. And there's always going to be older generations who shun that change, who look down on it because it's different, it's new, and it's scary. But there's also going to be plenty of people who change themselves and learn to understand that these changes are necessary, like Grug. Unfortunately, not everyone's going to be like that. And I'm kind of wondering if either the show, one of the shows, or the sequel are going to touch on that. Sometimes you have people who just will not listen to reason and rebuke change at every possible waypoint. They look at change and they will never change themselves because they're so afraid of it. And in some cases, some of these people will also try to force you to follow their ideals and refuse change as well. They'll try to stop you from even being able to accept change. So, yeah, I kind of hope that this is touched on in a future, in either the sequel or one of the shows. Because I feel like that's necessary to show as well. It's great to show that someone can change themselves and become better, but you need to show both sides of that coin. Otherwise, like, you're just telling basically a fairy tale, which is all fine and good, but I feel like kids need to know that there are people out there who just can't be bothered to to make a change in their lives. It's important for kids to know that some people just aren't going to be able and willing to do that. So, yeah. Also, um if I had to say a least favorite character, it would actually be Thunk. I think he's just kind of boring. He's, again, a very stereotypical dumb brother archetype. And that's pretty much it. Like, he doesn't fulfill any other role in the movie. He's there for comic relief because of how dumb he is, and that's really it. Maybe he'll have more to do in the series or in the sequel movie, but for now, based on this first film, he's just the blandest of the characters by far. Um, and the story of them having to abandon their home because it gets destroyed and having to go on this like big journey and everything. Again, it's nothing new, but I think it was well handled enough. I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. I even laughed quite a bit at one point. Um, I don't quite understand what they were trying to do with the animals, but yeah, I mean, altogether, I did very much enjoy this movie. I thought it was very entertaining, fun, cute, and yeah, I mean, I I can get why people like it. I understand why it's well received. And I definitely want to see more. And because I haven't said it, because I know it would be probably asked about, going back to the entire thing with Eep being sexy, needlessly designed to be sexy, do I also find her as such? Yeah, I do. I know. I figured someone might ask, so I'm just like get that out of the way. It's like, yeah, I do find her sexy, because she's literally designed that way. And I mean, again, I don't mind that. I've seen plenty of shows with characters who are designed to be sexy. One Piece has a lot of those. Hell of a Boston Has Been Hotel has quite a lot of those too. So it's like I'm not like afraid to acknowledge that. It's just I don't really get why she was designed to be sexy for this movie specifically. It just doesn't feel like it is needed at all. Like with certain characters in One Piece and Has Been Hotel and Hello Boss, it actually makes sense that they would be sexy because it's like there's canon reasons for it. But she's just like, oh, she's just really needlessly curvaceous and sexy, and it's like she doesn't really have a reason to be. But again, it's not a big deal. It's no real issue. Um, yeah, I very much thought this was a really enjoyable ride, and hopefully the other parts of this franchise can impress just as much, if not more. Maybe they'll actually do some different things that will improve upon the formula and the characters. We will see. We will see in the future. For now, though, tell me what you thought of the Croods. Let me know down below. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.